5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Please do not change channel.
From Krypton Radio, brought to you by Famous Faces and Funnies and Off the Chain with Yvonne Mason, it's the Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour, the Internet's premier pop culture talk radio show. You're tuned in, you're logged on, and now your hosts, G.W. Pomichter and Christian Basil. Who are you hanging with?
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
Okay, hello World Wide Web. Welcome to the Hangin' with Web Show Radio Hour. I'm G.W. Pomichter, and Christian Basil's not with us tonight. He is on his holiday vacation, and we are going to be talking tonight. This is the second part in a four-part series that we're doing through the holiday season. That is the holidays in fiction, and it is looking at the best, worst, and craziest stories of the holiday season. And we get to dive into a little bit of the history of our winter holiday season, where these holidays come from, what makes them so special to us around the world. And tonight, part two is about the dark side of the holidays. That's right.
And they're dark.
Yes. Welcome to the dark side. And we are joined to talk about the dark side with none other than author Kevin J. Kessler from the Just Us Watchtower, the author of the Rosinanti series. Kevin, how are you tonight, man?
Hey guys, I'm just replacing Christian all over this week, aren't
I'm
I?
I'm telling you, man. We're making. Why is it that we're all still working this week while Christian is on holiday?
That's very true. Well, most people take holidays closer to the actual holidays.
Yeah.
He's just getting it out of the way first.
Yeah, he took his holiday literally through Hanukkah.
On holiday?
Yes, he's on holiday.
Yes.
And we are also joined by award-winning dark fantasy author Valerie Willis. Valerie, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. I got the kids fed. They're in the other room watching their shows or YouTube. I don't know which. I'm not worried about it. But I'm excited because, my thing is the whole history, mythology, darkness, dark fantasy side.
Yes.
We are on the dark side.
Yes. And, the holiday season for many in modern society and in modern human culture, because it's a global season, the holiday season is a time for hope and joy and bringing out the best part of mankind. These are all the themes that we've celebrated for what most people don't understand is only about a half a century or so. This time of the year has not always been full of joy and hope and wonder. It started out as a very dark time. And many of the traditions that we have today are remnant of those times, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight, the dark side of the holiday season. How did we get from there to here? How did we go from
doom
and gloom, and we've got some great little tidbits from the holiday season here.
Oh, yes.
Most of them involve woodland people eating children.
Oh, yeah.
It's a recurring theme.
Yeah. Or beatings, lots of beatings.
You beat the child to tenderize it because you're going to eat them later. I think that's the notion there, because they did. There was a lot of children eating happening.
There was a lot of death, a lot of people being kidnapped and blamed, a lot of rituals around women doing things so that the supernatural creatures around them would help them survive winter type stuff too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
This is
winter was hard.
Yes, this is the Starks are right. Winter is here. Well, we're in Florida, so I guess I shouldn't say that too loud.
It was very cold this morning.
By very cold, everybody out there on the World Wide Web, Sage means it was like 59 degrees.
That's cold.
Uh-huh.
Actually, no, it's colder than
Kevin
that.
just came from Jersey.
Well.
Yeah, it was like 20 degrees there. So I'm going back in like 2 weeks.
He brought it with him.
You're going back in like 2 weeks?
Yeah, I got to go for Christmas.
Yeah, nope. Where do you celebrate the holidays? But where everything is cold and damp and dead.
Well, that's the thing. I don't mind the cold when it comes to Christmas time. I actually think it's cute up until December 26th. And then after that, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done with this now.
I think snow is absolutely beautiful on Facebook.
That's because the holiday cheer ends after Christmas. Holiday cheer for snow, that is. My little one, my 4-year-old, he told me in the car the other day, he goes, I'm mad. And I'm like, well, what are you mad about, buddy? And he says, there's no snow. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we live in Florida. He goes, there's no snow for Christmas. It's not Christmas. I'm like, I felt bad. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, if he knew he'd be shoveling snow, he'd probably change his mind about that.
That's true.
I do kind of have to weigh in with him, though, because that's the one thing I do miss, is at this time of the year, I miss the snow. At least out the window. You know.
Yes, out the window is always the best.
Yes.
I hated actually having to like go out in it, or shovel it, but like watching from the window while the snow falls, and it's like you could see it in the street lights, like that was.
And
I loved that.
And it's seeing things through a child's eyes too, because I know I loved a good. I mean, it's going to sound really weird. I loved a good blizzard. If you're looking at it through a window. I loved a good blizzard, the way the snow, like you said, it reflects off the street lamps and it just starts to pile up, and it's just so thick, and it's an eerie gray beauty that winter tends to bring with it. And it's just something, I have to side with the kids here, man. I miss the snow at this time of the year. Right like the day after Christmas, it could all melt away and there could be the first flower. That would be perfect.
I don't know. Blizzards were fun. I remember when I was a little girl, that great big blizzard that blew in up north. What was that, 78 or 79? Mm-hmm. And then after that, we had those bricks that they used to make, the big plastic bricks so you could build your own igloo. Okay. And there was enough snow that we could make igloos. It was awesome.
You made igloos in Pittsburgh?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And then it was...
That happened to me in the blizzard of 96.
Oh, my gosh, he makes me feel old.
Wow.
I was 11.
Yeah. Okay. Damn
it,
That's
man.
okay. At the beginning of this year, I did drive up to just south of Savannah, Georgia, when we had that freak cold storm in January. And so the kids got to experience snow for the first time. So I at least did my part as mommy.
There you go. They got to see the snow. Well, guys, the theme of tonight is the dark side of Christmas. So what I think we'll do is we'll kind of go around and we'll gather up everybody's darkest Christmas tales, and hear, what do we all know? What have we all found out in our research, or what have we ever, found out in the storytelling, etc. So we'll start with our dark fantasy author, Valerie. Valerie, darkest Christmas tale.
Well, last week I shared the fact that the darkest thing I saw television-wise was A Very Supernatural Christmas. And it was very gory, and parents being chopped up, and kids wondering what happened because pagan gods decided to hunt down their own sacrifices.
Isn't there a group out there in the Christmas lore that we were researching? Isn't there a group that is like the father beaters or something, that they did go after the parents? Didn't you find that somewhere?
I might have found that.
Yeah.
Well, we might talk about that.
Yeah.
I think the darkest one I'm aware of is and it's hard when you start going to Celtic mythology, because everything that we know about the Celtics mostly comes from the journals of Julius Caesar, or what the archaeologists have discovered, because they believed in oral traditions. But they had some really weird stuff, like the Oak King and Holly King. And basically the murder of the Oak King brought in the winter solstice sometimes. And then they also had this crazy woman who would approach as an old hag to seduce people. And if you weren't kind to her, if the man wasn't kind to her, a death was imminent. So there's some really... It's almost like a cross of the, where Beauty and the Beast get some of their content from, because it's if he had just been nice to her, everything would have been cool.
Yeah, just been a little kind. That seems to be a recurring theme throughout the holiday season, throughout the Christmas traditions, is most of the darkness comes as a form of punishment for bad behavior. If you are not polite, if children are bad, if you are not well behaved. There's one that if you're lazy. This was a really good one. There's a tradition that says,
oh yes,
it is the tradition that on the Feast of Saint Nicholas, it was to keep everybody working hard. The tradition was, what was the name of it? There was a creature that came if you didn't have new clothes for Christmas.
Yes, you had to have new clothes.
Yeah. And the only way you got new clothes was you were a hard worker. And so as the Christmas holidays approached, you were kind of like Dobby. You got new clothes for Christmas if you were a hard worker. And so those that didn't have new clothes got, dragged out and beat up. It's a pretty, yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but it all ways to keep us in check. Kevin, how about you, man? We've got Kevin J. Kessler on here, a host of the Just Us Watchtower, the author of the Rosinanti series. Kevin, how about you? Darkest Christmas tale that you can think of?
My whole thing is not really like dark Christmas tales. It's more like seeing the dark in like things that aren't meant to be dark.
Uh-huh.
Like I find Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer to be dark. I think it's a story about an abused, like horribly discriminated against child.
Yeah, well, he's bullied, very bullied.
Yeah, and then in the end doesn't even really get a true happy ending because he's just conforming to the people that, like, Santa Claus is the worst in that movie, the worst. And at the end he's just like, oh, well, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? And if that's me, I'm just being like, hey, shove your sleigh up your big round red.
Yeah, look, fat man, now you need a favor, really?
Exactly. Oh, how the tables have turned.
That's right. Now you need a favor, huh? Yeah. No, it is. And interestingly enough, I don't know how many people out there know this, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story and song and everything that came from it actually was... it was the epitome of the commercialization of Christmas early on. Way back, was it the store Montgomery Ward's?
It was Montgomery
Ward's, yes. Had a tradition of handing out free books at the holiday season. And one Christmas, they got a little cheap, and they didn't want to buy the books from the publishers. And all of us online right now can feel what that must have stung for all of those wonderful authors and publishers out there.
Right.
So they decided it would be cheaper to do their own. And so they had one of their marketing guys write what became Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and he drew the story from his own childhood. He was a little skinny guy. He had been bullied as a kid. He wasn't very successful at work, and here he was tasked with this thing, and it got worse for him because they sold they gave away 22 million copies of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and they never paid him. And his eventual reward, and this is where it does turn into a Christmas story. There is a happy ending. His eventual reward was Montgomery Ward's decided that the campaign wasn't going to yield them very much, so they gave him the rights. That was his reward, was to get the rights to his story, which has now become one of the most beloved Christmas stories of all time. So he actually did get paid in the long run, but in the short term, they cut him off. They didn't pay him. 22 million copies of the book went out, and eventually he got the rights as his retirement party, and it became a huge success. But early on, it was one of those marketing gimmicks. It was a way for them to get free books.
I also have a pretty dark take on the Grinch. That's kind of my headcanon.
You have a darker take on the Grinch than the Grinch itself. Wow. Okay.
Yes. I actually think that the Grinch is a story about depression, anxiety, and self-loathing.
Ooh.
As somebody who suffers from such things,
what? I want to hear more about that.
Ever since I was a kid, I've always kind of assumed that the song that we hear is actually playing in the Grinch's head.
Ooh, I like that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get back from our commercial break. We have to take a break, guys, but stay tuned in and stay logged on because we're going to dive back in right after these messages.
It's Germany, 1938. Charlotte is a 15-year-old girl living in the Jewish quarter. George lives in the city proper and enamored by Charlotte's charm and grace when she wanders into his cobbler shop. George decides right then and there that he is going to marry her. Follow along as this unlikely couple struggles to stay one step ahead of the Gestapo and their dramatic escape from Nazi Germany. Good Things Always Happen in Springtime from author Joanne Fisher on Amazon.com today.
From the imagination of author Kevin J. Kessler, the Rosinanti dragons are no more. They have fallen into the obscurity of lore. Now warrior Valentine Beret and Seraphina, a magically gifted princess, are on a mission to save the world of Terra. Together they must face the Rosinanti legacy and combat the greatest threat their world has ever known. In the end, who is stronger, the man or the dragon? Find out in Kevin J. Kessler's The Rosinanti series on Amazon.com today.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Hangin' with Web Show Radio Hour. I'm GW Pomichter, and we are on the line today with author Kevin J. Kessler and author Valerie Willis. Kevin, just before the break, has managed to find the allegory for self-loathing and depression inside the Grinch. And
Yeah, I was thinking, I always thought of it in terms of, like, that's his internal monologue. Like, he's constantly thinking these horrible things about himself. Like, you know, you're a mean one. There are termites in your smile. You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile. These are, like, the kinds of thoughts that people with self-loathing who don't enjoy themselves or don't like themselves, these are the thoughts that they have. And so to me, it was always a take on this lonely guy who just thinks he's this horrible piece of garbage. And, you know, he just has this inner running monologue in his head constantly telling him what a piece of garbage he is. So, at that point, it's like, you know, like, let all Oz be agreed, I'm wicked through and through.
What it is, you know, what's interesting about that is the fact that in the end, the transformation of the Grinch is about community. It's about finding that you're not that different after all, kind of thing. And so I think it's really interesting that you saw that song or whatever as an inner monologue, because in the end, that's what it takes for him to not feel that way, is for him to step outside of himself and into the community and into the greater whole. So it when looked at in its entirety, I mean I almost want to smack myself in the head and go, damn, I didn't see that. And you know, because I mean, you caught it right on the head. I mean, it really is, from the outset of that story, the only thing that makes his teeny tiny heart is himself. Mm-hmm. He's for all intents and purposes a hermit, and feeling alone and lonely and set aside. And again, I guess that loneliness tends to make us self-reflect way too much and be very, very self-critical, and especially if you happen to suffer from depression and anxiety and things. Loneliness can be a really, really put you in a really dark place. So it actually makes perfect sense, as I hear you say it, in the context of the story, because it is kind of a dark. You did take that. You took the Grinch and made it dark. You took Dr. Seuss and made him dark. That's, wow, dude.
I mean, and it goes back to that whole principle that the more negative your thoughts are, the more negative your actions become. Because at first he wasn't doing anything, but because he stewed during the course of the story, he eventually does what he thinks himself of. So yeah, he
becomes what he thinks he is.
Yep.
Through the course of the first half of the story, he literally drives himself into being as bad as he already thought that he is, which is an interesting way to look at that. You know, and these traditions, come again from dark roots inside of our holiday season. Remember, everybody, the winter is a time when, for all intents and purposes, nature takes a breather, is dead. We watch the leaves fall off our trees in the fall, the snow falls and the ground freezes. The animals are hungry, and so are the people. And it's a desperate, desperate time, and it lends itself to desperate stories. Throughout the thread here on the Facebook Live, early on, somebody mentioned the legend of Krampus, which is the
Ooh, Krampus.
The anti-Santa Claus.
Yes.
He's coming
I
for
love
you.
Krampus.
Yes, when you're bad, he's coming for you and to drag your soul to hell after dangling your body from a tree.
Do you want to know something fun?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Because
that's not fun enough. Because that's not fun.
Still, but they
Yeah.
still celebrate for Krampus. And actually,
yes.
tonight, we're recording right now, December 5th, but it's actually the day that they celebrate. It's Krampus night.
It's Krampus night.
It is. December 5th is Krampus night.
Where, by the way?
In Austria and different parts of Europe.
Okay.
So people still do. Do you know that people dress up as Krampus?
Uh-huh.
So
you're not allowed to drag people off to hell. So what is your function
because
as dressing up as Krampus?
they say alcohol is involved. That does not surprise me. But in recent years, they have had some injuries from dressed up Krampuses walking the streets looking for people to beat. Okay, because it still happens.
Okay.
So because of that, some of the reforms, all Krampuses are required to wear numbers so they can be identified in case of overly violent behavior. I am not making that up.
People that get too into the character of being the Krampus.
Yes.
What? That's some serious...
It's like Krampus purging, you know.
Oh, wow.
Now a short story must be made.
The holiday purge. That's right. Wow. Well, you know what? Speaking of holiday purge, we read another one that was very similar to that. That it is... Christmas has been a time, for those of y'all out there on the web that don't know it, your dad and your Uncle Lenny there on the couch did not invent getting way too drunk on Christmas.
Well, that's true.
It's actually been a part of the Christmas tradition going way back to its Roman roots to the Festival of Saturnalia.
Oh, yeah.
And so drinking, debauchery, because this Festival of Saturnalia also corresponded with the previous festival of Bacchus.
Oh, yes.
So Bacchanalia. And so... It's just been a time of year. I mean, look, it's cold outside. We're hungry. We're it's we could get eaten any time now. Let's just get drunk.
Right.
It seems to be the thing we've been doing for like 2,000 years. And so, in some places, it is so bad that it literally they don't lock up the criminals. You can commit a crime. It is the purge. You can commit a crime.
Yes.
Because
hey.
The Festival of St. Nicholas is where they were like they just stop policing the criminals for the night.
It's like when the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there you go. Same thing.
Oh my goodness.
Laws go out. The concept of the Krampus actually kind of reminds me, to take a more modern take on it, is, have you guys ever watched Futurama?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
The concept of the robot Santa Claus?
Santa Claus.
Robot, yes.
It's Sandy. Yeah.
Yeah, like, he knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you're on the can. He'll hunt you down and blast your ass from here to Pakistan.
Yeah,
you
nice.
better not breathe.
Yes.
You better not move. You're better off dead. I'm telling you, dude. Santa Claus is gunning you down. Like, I love that.
The fact that there's multiple episodes now, and that's the best part. He just keeps coming up, and like the only like Christmas Eve he's still around and peaceful is like the Kwanzaa guy. But yeah, like I don't know what the obsession was. Well, maybe I do, because it's kind of grim. So you think about it, and even the Vikings and Icelandic cultures, there's like the gorilla, which is like a female troll like witch thing that comes and eats bad children during Christmas.
Yes, who's also isn't she the
she's
mother of the Yule boys or the Yule?
Well, yeah, she has the Yule lads,
the Yule lads,
and the Yule cat. She's got both of them.
Yeah, it goes back to that whole weird Celtic mythology and borderline 17th and 18th century Celtic fae belief and fae faith, fairy faith.
Yes.
But the crazy thing is, if you really think about, if you turn to survival stories of people getting caught in cold places, somebody gets eaten.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I think when you look at these stories, you're looking at, again, it's a grim time on the calendar.
Yeah.
It is cold. Animals are hungry. People are hungry. You could get eaten when you walk outside, and then heaven forbid that it get just too desperate inside the cabin because somebody, the little one doesn't have a chance. Yeah. Kind of looking at the little one going, hey, Jimmy tastes a lot like chicken. Let's go. And I mean, so it is. These are desperate
times. I blame it on Grilla or blame it on Krampus.
But
yeah. Grilla. It's funny. She had 3 different husbands and 72 children. So
she's got every reason to want to eat a child.
And she eats them only if they don't obey their parents. If they don't obey their parents, then she eats them. But the fact that she's out there still to this day, they mentioned her in 2010. Now, I cannot pronounce that crazy volcano name that happened in Iceland. Do you remember that?
Story.
Yes. The Onion actually blamed her for the 2010 eruption.
The Onion story. When the Onion did a parody news story on the volcanic eruption and blamed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, she's still in the news.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. And so many of our Christmas traditions come from dark, dark places. Mistletoe, poison plant.
That comes from the story, the Norse mythology of Balder, because it was a mistletoe, a sword tempered with mistletoe that ended up killing him because Loki was messing around.
Uh-huh.
Right? Wasn't Balder invulnerable because of his mother Freya?
Yeah, and his only weekness was mistletoe.
Yeah.
Yep.
They did that story so amazingly in the new God of War game that came out.
Really?
Oh, it's so good. Balder's the main villain of the whole thing. And
nice.
That's
so
really
good.
Cool. Well, I also know that kissing under the mistletoe, you were supposed to take a berry, like from the actual mistletoe plant, and once all the berries were gone from the mistletoe, then it lost all its magical properties.
Well, no wonder nobody takes a berry. You don't want to end that.
I'm just saying.
Really?
Mistletoe could be deadly if you eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. Nobody got that Batman reference?
Wow.
Batman Returns.
He snuck that in.
Yes, it took me a minute. Always takes me a minute.
Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it. A kiss can be even deadlier if you mean it.
Yes. He snuck that in on us.
Hey. If athletes get athlete's foot, what do astronauts get?
Oh, no, she's not going to do it. Yeah.
Mistletoe.
Yeah, she did it. She did it. Wow. And we're live, too.
Dear Lord.
We can never take that back.
That's the only clean Christmas joke I've got.
It's the only clean Christmas joke you got?
Maybe it's the only clean joke I've got. I don't know.
Could be. Wow. Oh man, yeah, it is an amazing time of year, everybody out there. Again, the traditions that we have today are filled with hope and joy and promise of tomorrow, and they all come from places of darkness, despair, and certainty that we'll be dead by then.
Right, like isn't the whole concept of bringing Christmas trees inside was to protect them from the winter chill? Like, wasn't that where Christmas trees came from?
It is. It was a way. It was thought, obviously, and it didn't work. They died because they came in.
Yeah. I had a story about Christmas trees. Now I can't find it.
There's a hopeful version of the Christmas tree legend that comes from an old Christian tale, which says that when the dark time of the year during which we celebrate Christmas, which was more likely in the spring, but it was said that when the king sent out the soldiers to take out the firstborn children, when he found out that the Christ child was born, Christ hid in an area that was shrubbed with pines, and that the reward for them hiding the child was that their needles would bloom evergreen. And so that's why they survive the winter when all the other trees lose their leaves. It's an interesting tale that I heard. I don't know where I heard that. I heard that like years and years ago.
Pagan mythology and paganistics, it wasn't the tree. They would bring in branches as a reminder of spring would eventually come back because they're green. The only green thing.
Yeah.
So it was like a I guess it's sort of like when it gets cold outside and we start looking at pictures of the beach kind of scenario. We just have to survive.
That was kind of the tradition of looking at a picture of the beach. It was bring in something green and remind us that if we live through this, it'll get better on the other side. We have to take another break, guys. So as we do that, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about more great Christmas traditions and the darker side of Christmas, and continue with a great discussion with two fantastic guests, Kevin J. Kessler and Valerie Willis. So stay tuned in and stay logged on, because we'll be right back. From some of today's best-selling, award-winning authors comes 22 page-turning tales, Cursed Lands.
Cursed Lands will lead you through one doomed world after another in a haunting dystopian urban fantasy.
Join the courageous as they battle for survival across worlds where fae, vampires, angels, witches, and more roam freely.
Cursed Lands is coming soon on Apple Books, Kobo, and Nook.
Pre-order your copy for just 99 cents today.
Best-selling and award-winning author of true crime and crime fiction, Yvonne Mason is back with a brand new book, The Pink Canary, a book that delves into the life of a drag queen and a marvelous whodunit. You can find this and all of Yvonne's other works on Amazon.com, or find Yvonne Mason on Facebook and Twitter.
He's gonna kill me.
Buy your copy of Pink Canary now.
Channeling the Mothership is an exciting journey into the higher mysteries. Certified psychic medium and clairvoyant Jerry McDaniel's readings, writings, and messages have been received by thousands of people in more than 45 countries. These messages have been obtained by channeling his higher self. How does he do it? Is it a blessing or a curse? And what lay beyond the reach of your five senses? Channeling the Mothership. Explore the mysteries of the spiritual and the metaphysical. Channeling the Mothership by author Jerry McDaniel. Available on Amazon.com today.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
You really get a kick out of that one, don't you?
She does.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hangin' with Web Show Radio Hour. I'm GW Pomichter, and we're on the line with author Kevin J. Kessler and author Valerie Willis. We've been talking about the darker side of the holiday season. Speaking of which, we are in the middle, or we just, about 2 days into the Hanukkah holiday now. That's right. And for those of you that don't know, again, Hanukkah it has its roots in a dark story. What we're celebrating during Hanukkah is actually survival. Again, just like we do with the Christmas holiday, just like we do with the winter holiday season. An 8-day siege, during which time the Jewish people, were able to survive and endure. And each day lighting only one candle because it was all they had. And they didn't know how long the siege would last. And that's where the tradition of the menorah comes from. Peter Wax told me how to pronounce it, and then I screwed it up anyway.
You did screw it up.
So, So for all of our friends out there who are celebrating this Hanukkah season, we wish you a very happy holidays. And again, dark roots made positive by the hope of humanity, the idea that something better will follow. As Valerie pointed out, the idea of the evergreen coming in to remind us that if we make it through the winter and we don't eat our children, or maybe we eat our children to help us make it through the winter, there will be spring.
Maybe. Yes. Maybe. You reminded me of the story about the Christmas tree.
Okay.
And it wasn't necessarily in Christmas roots, except Sybil and Addis, because she desired him as a mortal, and he was like, gee, that's an awful nice compliment, but I really don't want to have anything to do with you. I've picked out somebody else that I want to marry. And so she kind of drove him crazy, and he castrated himself at the foot of a pine tree. So think about that when you hang ornaments on your tree. Just saying.
You're terrible.
Wow.
I know. I don't make that up. I just share it.
Jeez.
She went really dark, man.
Dark, yeah. In Japanese mythology, they have the snow lady. The great thing about her is that the snow woman is basically someone's wife who was left in poverty and basically died in the snow or from cold. And now she's this benevolent spirit who will take other people's husbands and men, and they'll freeze to death because she's the snow spirit.
Oh, I suppose if you have a bad husband, that works.
So bring in your wives when it's cold outside.
Bring in your wives when it's cold outside. Very good tip. Good. Wow.
Well, if you're in Norway, you have to hide your broom. Did you know that?
What?
They do. They hide their brooms on Christmas Eve in Norway because they do not want evil spirits to come and steal them and fly off on them.
You made that up.
I did not make that up.
You did not make that
No,
up.
that is a true thing. Yes.
Hide your broom on Christmas Eve.
Yes. If you're the women hide their brooms, the men shoot off their shotguns to chase the spirits away, which is better than pissing on doorposts because they used to do that too to chase away ghosts.
That would actually chase away ghosts.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't want to walk in the house either if the first thing I smelled when I walked up to your door was urine. So I'm just saying.
Wow.
Yeah, but then, there's another one.
You are not allowed to use Google anymore.
No, there's another one in Italy.
Wow.
There's a witch in Italy who actually flies in on her broomstick to deliver treats.
To deliver treats.
Yes.
So you see the witch flying in, and she's there to...
Well, that's in Italy. She missed the birth of Christ, and she feels really bad, and so she visits all the homes and passes out candy flying in on her broomstick.
I'm sure this is a witch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does she know that if she had made it, then she would probably been burned at the stake?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
surely dodged a bullet there.
Yeah,
or
kind of.
It would
I
be.
mean, if she missed a... Okay, so, like, assuming that she's obviously a 2,500-year-old witch, right? And she just... She was invited with the wise men, and she just decided, well, I don't know, I can't get a fast enough broom? What's up?
Hey, look, I wasn't in the 13th century, so I don't know.
Well...
Baba Natali. That's she.
Baba Natali.
Yes.
And she flies in to deliver candy because she feels bad about missing the birth of Christ.
Yes. So be careful if you're in Norway because she might come by and take your broom because she has somewhere she's got to be.
Take your broom.
That's right.
She's like she
has somewhere to go.
Wow.
So it doesn't have to be an enchanted broom. It can just be any broom.
Any broom, yeah. They just...
Answers the age-old question if the broom is magic or if it's just a broom that... So if it's just the witch's magic making a broom fly, can't she just make anything fly?
In theory, one would think.
Can't it just be like a stepladder or something like that? Do they really need...
It'd probably be more comfortable to sit on.
Yeah,
exactly.
You just sit in the little rungs there, and you can just fly
out.
Like
I would get an Easy Boy recliner and make that fly.
What's with the broom?
An Easy Boy recliner. All right, that's a good idea.
Yeah, why a broom?
Nimbus 2000, like...
Yeah, why a broom? Now you have to Google that.
Okay, I will Google
because
why a broom.
Why a broom?
Right,
why not? He's right. If you could just enchant any old object, then why would you choose a broom when you could? There's so many more comfortable things.
Well, let's find out.
And you'll remember, in Hocus Pocus, Mary flies on a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. Yes.
Eureka!
That's my favorite element ever. Because the cord is dragging.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's being looked at. There's an episode of Family Guy that came out a couple years ago, a Christmas episode of Family Guy, where essentially it's all about how they find Santa Claus and he's just like this waxed out shell of a human being because everybody's gotten so crazed about Christmas and materialism, and they sing this song, this really dark, horrible song called "Christmas Time Is Killing Us." And it's like Santa Claus and the elves going, "Each jingle bell is a requiem knell, and while you think it's swell, we are toiling in hell." And it's really...
that...
I highly recommend looking it up on YouTube because it's good.
It is. What's
I'm
interesting,
gonna do that now.
Kevin brings out a very good point. The early Christmas traditions, the gift-giving element was a part of it. Which dates all the way back to the original festival of Saturnalia, where there was a gift-giving element, neighbors and friends. Even if I'm not mistaken, the slaves even got to switch places with their masters, for the period.
Yes, they did. They were king.
They got to king for a day kind of thing.
They got to be king for a day.
Now that element used to be very, very small. Give a gift. Nowadays, it's fill the tree. And there's more.
Hide the tree.
And there's more of us than ever. We're exponential growth here. So there are billions of human beings. That makes billions of children, and they all want tons of gifts. If I were the elves, I would have unionized 50 years ago because that's an unreasonable demand. At that point,
well, when you think about it as well, the elves, in Rudolph, they're making Noah's Arks and trains, but now they have to make iPads and things like that. One of the lines of the song was, "Each little elf used to fill up a shelf, making playthings and selflessly thrilling us. Now they're on crack, and it feels like Iraq because Christmas time is killing us."
Yeah, it is. It is. It's absolutely. I mean, it really. instead of a gift, every child gets like 10, and their iPads, and their all these things, and there are billions of children, not even millions anymore. So it has got to that point, and oh no. You guys can't see Sage's face, but whatever we told her to Google, and whatever we told
broomsticks. Why witches fly broomsticks? I don't. Let me see. I need to be able to find it.
Oh Lord!
A tasteful, non-explicit way to tell you what I found.
Oh no!
Oh, you need to send me a link right now so that I can get this.
Oh yes. Link this to the team.
There are.
I'll tell you what. We'll actually put a link in the Facebook Live thread too, just so put the link in there.
There is a reason why the witches ride the broomsticks, and it does have to do with hallucinogenic drugs, and how to apply them, because they're better absorbed. They're better absorbed through other places than necessarily just taking them and ingesting them by mouth.
Hallucinogenic drugs.
Is that true?
Well, according to this, yes.
What is the source of this material?
Oh, this one is Forbes. But this is
that's
third.
A Forbes magazine article?
This is the third one I've seen, because I didn't believe it the first time I read it. I was like, "There's no way that's why witches ride broomsticks." But apparently that is so.
Just so you know, Sage,
I found the article.
I did the same thing yesterday when I came across that Facebook post about necropants, and I'm like, "This can't be a thing."
Oh my gosh! And I'm so glad you said about finding the article, and not that you did the same thing yesterday to have hallucinogenic drugs. Oh my god!
No, drugs, but
wow. Okay.
Well,
all right. So.
Gosh, I hope there is no similar theory to behind why Santa flies in his sleigh.
Oh, wow, man.
That's a whole different dark side of the moon kind of Christmas.
But no wonder everybody in Norway is hiding their brooms at night.
Yes.
If that's your way of getting your hallucinogen, you're not going to give it away to the nearest spirit that comes by.
No.
You hide that broom. You hang on to that.
Is elves had like a totally different role in the beginning, like Norse and Scandinavian, like old mythology. So Freya has a twin brother named Frey. That's so creative. Who's the Lord of Elves, and during the winter solstice, everyone in the household but the females were kicked out of the house and had to go huddle elsewhere, while they held a grand ritual and sometimes a sacrifice by the women of the household. And the elves would come and basically have a grand old party, drink, eat, the whole 9 yards, and then bless them and help protect them and hunt and all sorts of stuff. And there would even be forms of art and, and like I said, it was a grand feast. And most of the time, Thor and Freya would be invited to this hoo-ha party. But it was like the women of the household threw this party, and elves weren't like. The weird thing is they don't describe them as being small beings either. Like they're just the elf folk who live in the woods, and if you give them a big party during the winter solstice, they'll make sure there's always deer to hunt nearby, and things don't go horribly wrong during the winter solstice. So it's interesting.
It's kind of a trade. It's kind of a trade. Then you get this nice feast and everything, and it's a trade for a bountiful, thanks for a bountiful fall, and it's sort of a celebration of a prayer, if you will, for a good spring.
Valerie brings up a good point about elves, though, because like Tolkien's elves, they were obviously not short.
No.
And small. So
true.
Yeah. So why are Santa's elves so tiny?
I don't know. Maybe they're like
you
part
have elves like Dobby who are,
tiny.
That's true.
So I mean, it's kind of a. See, there she goes. She's got Google again.
And then changelings would take the place of a human child and grow up to be human, look just like a human. So.
Wow. Well, that explains why we never noticed any of those missing children that were eaten.
Oh, that's true.
Yes. So, guys, we got to take another break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this exploration of the darker side of the holiday season. So stay tuned in and stay logged on, and we'll be right back.
The Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour on Krypton Radio, bringing you the very best in pop culture talk radio. Each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, the Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour with your hosts G.W. Pomichter and Christian Basil, who are hanging with rising pop culture newcomers as well as superstar icons. The Hanging with Web Show Radio Hour. Tune in Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Who are you hanging with?
Hi, I'm Cosplay Michael with the Hangin' with Web Show, and you're listening to Krypton Radio. And remember, cosplay's for everyone.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Hangin' with Web Show Radio Hour. I'm G.W. Pomichter, and on the line with us tonight is Kevin J. Kessler, the author of the Rosinanti series and the host of the Just Us Watchtower, and Valerie Willis, an award-winning dark fantasy author of the Cedric series and other and sundry. And we have been talking about the darker side of the holiday season, from its roots in pagan festivals, and the Santa Claus has become the modern carrot for good behavior. If you behave well, Santa Claus brings you presents. Much to what Kevin and I and Valerie agree must be the extreme protests of an obviously ununionized elven community who is forced into horrible labor this time of year. And we were talking about those elves and about how we got these little mini elves that do like Santa's bidding. They're like zombie elves. They're just miniature zombie stunted elves.
That reminds me of a joke.
Oh no!
Well, because
is anybody else afraid right now? I mean,
it's cute. I realize I have another clean Christmas joke, and it does come from Cosplay Michael, since we just heard from him. What are elves' favorite cookies?
I don't know.
Shortbread cookies.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that actually, we'll give you points for that. We'll give Cosplay Michael points for that.
Yes, it's Cosplay Michael's joke.
Cosplay Michael joke. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, guys. Kevin earlier managed to find the dark side of Dr. Seuss. So we're going to go back to Kevin. Kevin, what are some other dark holiday traditions, customs, or other observations that you've made, other than that Dr. Seuss made the Grinch as an allegory to depression? Wow. I'm still on that. I'm gonna.
Still on that one?
Yeah. My biggest fear as a child from A Christmas Story was The Nightmare Before Christmas, which now I love as like a, as I grew up and became like gothy in high school and whatnot. I grew to love this story, but the whole idea of it is just so wildly creative and dark, and I just love the imagery of it. I love it's like a classic claymation. It's like a classic claymation Christmas special, and except it's like super dark and edgy, and it's one of the few times in this world that I've actually enjoyed the work of Tim Burton.
I like that it asks the question. It begs the question in the form of Jack Skellington and in the form of his observation of Christmas. It notices something that I think a lot of us notice, but we don't really say anything about, which is there is something extremely creepy about the idea that after being stalked all year long, the night has finally come when someone will break and enter into your home.
Yes.
And we look forward to this. We know we're being stalked the whole year, when we're sleeping, when we're awake, and then we know that it will culminate in a crime. And
the whole concept of Santa Claus is creepy.
There is something really odd about this notion that it's okay to watch everybody all year and then sneak into their home.
Come on in when I don't let you in,
and eat my cookies. And that's you get, and you're rewarded.
Let's share your food.
We leave you food and drink, as we do this. So wow, yeah. It is there again. The traditions that we have that are fun and really kind of cool have kind of dark roots.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And which reminds me, even those that don't have dark roots have some dark connotation as society changes. And a great example of that would be, I don't know how many of y'all have heard the news story about the song, Baby It's Cold Outside.
Oh, yes.
I can defend this.
Good, because I was waiting for.
I have a thing to defend it with.
Good.
To find it.
Good, because
so vamp for a second while I pull it up.
Okay, good, and we'll just explain to everybody out there on the web. For those of you who haven't seen the news, the classic holiday song "Baby It's Cold Outside" has been pulled from some radio stations because of its connotation during our current era. I guess what's being referred to as the Me Too movement or the Me Too time. Because of its connotations that it is a man trying to encourage a woman to get drunk and spend the night.
Yes.
And so that's been in the news the last couple of days. And
so I found the thing that people are calling it a rape anthem, but there's a thing going around that kind of defends it, where it's a former English teacher who talks about, I'm also a big fan of jazz of the 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Giving a cursory glance and applying today's worldview to the song, yes, it absolutely sounds like a rape anthem. But when you look closer, hey, what's in that drink was a stock joke at the time, and the punchline was invariably that there's actually pretty much nothing in the drink, not even a significant amount of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
The woman is staying late, unchaperoned, at a dude's house in the 1940s. That's the kind of thing that good girls aren't supposed to do, and she wants people to think she's a good girl. The woman in the song says outright multiple times that what other people will think of her staying is what she's really concerned about. The neighbors might think my maiden aunt's mind is vicious, there's bound to be talk tomorrow, but she's having a really good time and she wants to stay, so she's excusing her uncharacteristically bold behavior, either to the guy or to herself, by blaming it on the drink.
Ooh.
Unaware that the drink is actually really weak, maybe not even alcoholic at all. That's the joke.
Wow. That's really interesting. There was a gentleman on the news the other day who said that they saw the woman's observations in the song as being a way to express again her willingness and desire to stay, while considering the social ramifications of a woman being considered less than virtuous in that era. And so she wants to stay, but she needs to consider what it's going to look like, and she needs to consider the possible consequence of not being, again, of people's talk in those days. So it's interesting. Let's throw this one out to the ladies. Valerie, weigh in here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's crazy how songs from a certain era can shift drastically on how we perceive them, because we're always applying, it's sort of like science fiction, we're always applying what's going on now to what those verses mean to us, and sort of personifying them.
Yeah, what they mean to us versus what they meant to them.
Versus what it was intended.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like the whole hoopla about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you know, and today's time where bullying and people being gaslighting is becoming like a surfacing big issue. You know, it's the same concept. Like, because we have so many tender spots and issues being addressed, those lyrics hit on a different mentality and an emotion than they would have, back then.
Well, it's very true. Think of, what was it? Some of the other songs that aren't so pleasant that we love to sing. I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm Dad's asleep upstairs. I'm going to hook up with Santa.
Well, I always thought I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, to me, was always Daddy's dressed as Santa Claus, and I saw Mommy give him a kiss.
Yeah, no,
they never clarified that.
Yeah,
I guess I always just saw it from the kid's perspective. Grandma got run over by a reindeer was always my least favorite, because I loved my grandma and didn't want her to get hit by a reindeer.
Yeah,
Like I refused. In kindergarten, I refused to sing the song during the Christmas pageant.
I don't blame you.
Swerve.
Well, it's 8 reindeer. Right. How do you
Just
swerve
saying.
8 reindeer? Besides that, if you don't know, I mean, in our house, it's milk and cookies, but it's Christmas Eve. Who knows what they're leaving out for Santa to drink?
Oh, totally.
He may not be, but by 2 or 3 in the morning, he may not be in the best condition to ride that sleigh anymore. Not to mention the sugar coma he's in from all the cookies.
So going back to the song, though. A little about I'm a gender fluid, pansexual, polyamorous person. So I'm very open about these things. But the person makes the point that this is not a song about rape or predation. It's in fact a song about a woman finding a way to exercise sexual agency in a patriarchal society designed to stop her from doing so. But it's also, at the same time, one of the best illustrations of rape culture that pop culture has ever produced. It's a song about a society where women aren't allowed to say yes, which happens to mean it's also a society where women don't have a clear and unambiguous way to say no.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
that was a
that
really
is
good observation. Who wrote that? Let's throw out some credit.
It was Big Butter and Eggman.
Big Butter and Eggman. Well, if you're out there, Big Butter and Eggman, we appreciate your perspective, and that was really, really well written.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really, really well written point of view, and one that I hope makes people think. Because again, as Valerie stated, we often look at art and music and literature from a perspective of where we are now, and our point of view now, and we don't look at it for what it tells us about where we were. And I think he hit the nail right on the head when he said we were very much a patriarchal society where if you don't have the ability to say yes, then by definition you also don't have the ability to say no clearly. And that therein is the fundamental issue as she tries to express herself and make a decision based on what she wants. And she's unable to because society has set up rules. And those rules were from a one-sided perspective. So excellent article. That's a fantastic look at a current dark issue of the holiday season. Next week, we are going to dive into why the holiday season, the winter holiday season, and this includes, I want to be clear, guys, I was raised Catholic. I do celebrate Christmas, but this is also a season for Hanukkah. This is also a season for the South African tradition of Kwanzaa, which is a celebration of community. It is not a religious holiday. It is not in competition with Christmas. Many families celebrate both. It is a celebration of community. It is a time when we celebrate many, many things, including the remnants of some lost and forgotten traditions of our distant past, whether it be the Norse traditions that we have
Yuletide,
the Celtic traditions that we have, the leftover Roman and Greek traditions that have been passed on through the holiday season. When you combine all that together, you get the modern human holiday season, which is a global phenomenon celebrated in places where Christendom is not the biggest or even a majority religion. And yet it is the biggest season and time on the calendar. I have a belief as to why that is. I'll share that with you all next week, and we will dive into it and look and see what the psychology that makes this season so fantastic for all of us is, whether it be from a horror perspective or a dark perspective or from the lighter side of things. As we get ready to wrap it up, we have to thank our partners and friends at Something Unique Magazine, Famous Faces and Funnies, Space Coast Comics, author Yvonne Mason at Off the Chain Radio, our good friends down at Pound the Grape in the Melbourne Square Mall, our friends over at Krypton Radio, who will be airing this show again tomorrow night at 7 p.m., and then again on Saturday a couple of times. I'm not sure what the times on those are. Our good friends over at radio.com and iHeartRadio, and, of course, our guests tonight who have been authors Kevin J. Kessler and Valerie Willis, and our own Seijia here in the studio, as well as Dina Marie behind the control board. Making magic happen.
She does make magic happen.
She does. Mm-hmm. She does magic I do not understand.
I understand it. But I'm let her do it.
Okay. All right. From all of us at the Hangin with Web Show, we wish you all a very, very, very festive holiday season. I hope that all of you have the kind of holidays that you can really enjoy, that you spend a lot of time with family and loved ones and friends who love you. And we do hope that you have a wonderful holiday season and you emerge on the other side during the new year unscathed, or as unscathed as possible.
Yes.
It's Christmas. Everybody's going to be a little scathed. Our pocketbooks are definitely going to be scathed.
Well, yes, that's true.
Yes. I didn't do a show on the commercialization of Christmas.
I'm glad.
Me too. Because, wow.
Yes.
But thank you, Kevin, for coming on tonight. Thank you, Valerie. We really appreciate you coming on tonight. And any final thoughts, guys? Let's go around. Kevin, final thoughts?
Christmas is a dark, dark, horrible time.
Christmas is dark and full of terrors.
I kid. Christmas is my favorite time of year, and I love exploring the different various ways to celebrate it and look at it.
And the way and how we got where we are. That's right. Valerie, how about you? Final thoughts?
I just love how the holiday season reflects modern day success. So obviously back then things were very dire and it's survival time during the winter solstice. But now we have the luxury of celebrating it in a positive light for a change, where this is the time to get together and be thankful for everything we were able to do over the year and look forward to the new year. It's not hope we see the new year. It's look forward to the new year. And I like how society has transitioned all of it.
Absolutely. Sage?
Well said. I have a final word.
Oh, okay.
It's thanks to Kevo. Banana.
Yes. Those of you who don't know this yet, wait for it on Saturday. Check out the Justice Watchtower, and you will learn why that's actually funny to Kevin and I.
It's actually on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS.
Oh, it is on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, which will again be Saturday morning, 8 a.m. You can check that out, and you can learn why Kevin and I find that very amusing. In the meantime, guys, remember, stay tuned in and stay logged on and see who we're hanging with next.